Good evening and welcome back to Vaughn Sports Madness, here part 3 of 4. We're going to go a little bit off script a little bit here today. Just had something come across my wire a few minutes ago that I wanted to address. The Houston Rockets, it seemed like that they had a head coach in the bag. Well, first of all, they had Kevin McHale, who did pretty well with them, got them to the Western Conference Finals last year. Was fired 11 games into the season and replaced by J.B. Bickerstaff. The Houston Rockets are a mess. We thought the Lakers were bad. I'm going to put the Houston Rockets almost in the same category of dysfunction as the Lakers right now. This is a couple of really proud franchises. I didn't think, as a guy that's been following sports my entire life, that I would ever say that either the Lakers or the Rockets were in complete dysfunction, and yet both of them are. And I'm going to say the Rockets are in worse shape than the Lakers. The Lakers are just really young and cap stressed. They're not terrible. No, they're terrible, but they're terrible because they don't have players, and their front office is a mess. Houston is terrible for a whole different reason. They're bickering, they're infighting, and it seems like their front office doesn't have any clue what they're doing. The Lakers are at least setting out with a mission. What they may be doing is failing, but at least they have some foresight into what they're wanting to do. The Houston Rockets have no clue. They fired Kevin McHale, a Hall of Famer, 11 games into the season. He was fine. As a Spurs fan, I hated him. But that's not because he was a bad coach. It was just, he was annoying. Okay? He was annoying. Not a bad coach, though. But Dwight Howard, the coach killer, I think that's where he went. Replace him with J.B. Bickerstaff. They did all right. It was 37 and 34. Rockets came into the playoffs. They kind of snuck in as the 8th seed. They took one from Golden State, which people didn't think they could do. They lost 5 games. They fired J.B. Bickerstaff. But then it looked like they were going to have Mike D'Antoni was going to be their new head coach. I didn't really like the move, but I could see it for the personnel that they have. They've got an offensive-minded team. Get someone that's going to push that. Excuse me. Oh, wow. Excuse me. That kind of came out of the middle of nowhere. Anyway, it looked like they were honing in on D'Antoni, and they haven't ruled him out, but they're continuing the interview process. And saw today where they have interviewed, or they have scheduled an interview rather, with James Borrego, the San Antonio Spurs assistant coach. That's the second Spurs assistant coach that they've interviewed this go round. And when that came across that they were interviewing James Borrego, it kind of got me to looking a little bit. Okay, who have they interviewed? And I found it says James Borrego is the 12th candidate that we know of that they've gone public with to interview for this opening. Mike D'Antoni, who looks to be the favorite. Jeff Hornacek, who was offered the position and turned it down to go to the Knicks. How bad are things in Houston if the Knicks are better? David Blatt, again, not a bad coach, run off by a coach killer. Toronto Raptors assistant Rex Kalamian, Grizzlies assistant Jeff Bzdelik, another Spurs guy. The other Spurs assistant Ettore Messina, Kenny Smith, former Houston Rockets player. LA Clippers assistant Sam Cassell, another Houston Rockets former player. Current Rockets assistant Chris Finch. And then Orlando Magic assistant Adrian Griffin. And then none of them want this job. None of them want this job. Things are bad in Houston right now. Golly, they're so bad. And I didn't realize how bad things were. I knew that they were underachieving, and they have for a couple seasons now. Say underachieving, they went to the Western Conference Final last year. They underachieved this year. They didn't have the injury problems that so many of the teams out west had. They didn't have, nobody had the problems that Memphis had. Memphis this year was San Antonio last year. Spurs just couldn't catch a break. No pun intended. But then by the time they got to the playoffs, they were healthy, but they'd only played like 8 games together. Well, shoot, they lost in the first round. But things are a mess right now in Houston, and all I have to say is, I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of The Rock, and if you are, I apologize. My objective, my goal all along, like I said, is to put out a professional product. If that offends you, I do deeply apologize. And I thank you for watching my podcast. And I promise you, I'm capable of giving impartial analysis of the Houston Rockets. I just don't want to right now, and no one has said anything to me. But I promise you, I do know Houston Rockets basketball. I know it very well, and it's a long, proud, storied franchise. And as a basketball fan, just a fan of the NBA in general, it bothers me what is going on with the Rockets, just like it bothers me what's going on with the Lakers. And I tell people in the NBA, well, in every sport, in the NBA, the league is better when the Lakers and the Knicks are good. When they're not good, the league is not as good. The league is not as enjoyable to watch. It's like in college basketball. College basketball is better when Duke is good and Indiana is good. In Major League Baseball, baseball is better when the Yankees are good. When the Dodgers are good. In the NFL is better when the Dallas Cowboys are good, whether you like them or not. The NFL is better when the Cowboys are good. In hockey is better when the Detroit Red Wings are good. Again, whether you like them or not. It's better for the sport. Houston isn't quite in that upper tier of like Knicks, Lakers, but they're kind of in that secondary tier. Atlanta, Boston. When they're good, the league is better. It's that's the category that Houston falls in, and the league is the league is better when everybody's good, but everybody's not going to be good. There are way too many teams, and even if everybody were good, it would still sort out from really good to good, but not as good. But man, things are a mess in Houston right now. They just are. They just are. Eastern Conference Final, Game 3 tonight. Cleveland and Toronto. Cleveland has dominated this series. They've won the first 2 games by 50 points. And now they head to the Great White North. I can see Toronto getting this game tonight. That crowd up in Toronto is insane. It's a tremendous atmosphere. They got good fans. They've got a good crowd. They've got everything going for them. Plus, they're in Canada. I can see them getting this game. It's not going to be a series. It's going to be a 5-game series. And that's what... Before the postseason started, I made my picks all the way through. And I had Toronto winning this series in 6. I've got Cleveland in 5. I think Cleveland is too good. They're too much. No, I am not sharing John Sally's view that they're going to sweep the entire playoffs. Cherry Pepsi. They're not going to sweep the whole playoffs, so no, don't even go there. Yeah, Cleveland, Toronto. And people are talking about, well, what can Toronto do to slow down Cleveland? The answer is not much. Offensively, they've got to find their stride. I don't know. Cleveland is not a defensive juggernaut. I don't know why people are having so much difficulty scoring on them unless they're just intimidated by them. And that may well be the case. Cleveland is not that good defensively. LeBron James is not that good of a defender. Kyrie Irving is definitely not that good of a defender. Kevin Love is a decent defender. He's a great rebounder. I don't see it. I just don't see it. I don't see why people are only averaging 86 a game on them in the playoffs. We're talking near record-setting numbers. They're not. Their defense is not. Offensively, yeah, they're stacked. Kevin Love's capable of going for 20 at any time. LeBron James is LeBron James. He's capable of going for 40, 45, 50 at any point. Kyrie Irving, same 30, 35 anytime. And then all of their ancillary players, they're deep. They've got a good bench. They're a deep team. They're capable of running you out of buildings offensively. I'm surprised at what they're doing defensively. I'm very surprised at what they're doing defensively. And again, I'm not saying they're a bad team defensively, but I'm saying they're not historically good. The one that I said was going to be the X factor coming into this series was Jonas Valanciunas, and he's been a no-show. And if Valanciunas is going to continue to be a no-show, then Toronto will get swept. He's got to show up. He's got to show up in a big way. He's big, he's long, he's athletic, he's young, and he's fast for a big. He can't be averaging 4 points a game. He's got to make his presence known. He's got to be an enforcer. I mean, who's going to stop him? He's bigger than Kevin Love. Who's going to stop him on that team for Cleveland? Nobody. LeBron can't guard him. Well, LeBron doesn't need to guard him. He's got others. He's got to worry about DeRozan. Worry about DeRozan. He doesn't need to be worried about Valanciunas streaking down the lane. I'm at such a loss in this series because looking at it on paper, Toronto should win this series going away. They should win in 6 on paper. On paper, it should be the Spurs and the Warriors in the Western Conference Final too. We see how that worked out. Or excuse me, it should be the Spurs and the Warriors in the Western Conference Final, and we see how that's going. That's not anywhere near happening. Spurs got laughed out of that series, and that's what's happening to Toronto in this one. They're getting run out of the building. But that one kicks off here in about 20 minutes. That game does. So actually, by the time I'm done recording the 4th segment of this show, it'll be time for me to head back to the room and watch game 3 of the series. But yeah, Toronto is not going to win this series. But if it's not going to be a sweep, they got to win tonight. I don't really see. I don't see. I certainly don't see Toronto winning 4 of 5 from Cleveland, and I really don't see them winning 4 straight. I don't know that I see them winning 2 straight, to be honest with you. They struggle too much with Atlanta, and Cleveland is markedly better than the Hawks are. But we'll see what happens. One of the theories out there for how Toronto is going to slow down Cleveland is by intentionally fouling LeBron James. I don't know. It's not like LeBron's averaging 50 a night. And you keep putting him on the free throw line, He's a big, strong dude. And eventually he's going to start hitting some of these shots. Or at least getting it to where he's shooting threes when you're fouling him. He's, 73% from the foul line? So, I guess. I see it. I don't understand it. And if that's the big plan for beating the Cleveland Cavaliers is intentionally fouling LeBron James, boy, you don't have any idea. You are out of the well. It's not like DeAndre Jordan and fouling him where, he's a 31% free throw shooter. You've got a pretty solid chance. If you're going to foul DeAndre Jordan, you've got a pretty solid chance of coming out on the top end of that. LeBron James is a 70+% free throw shooter, even on a bad day. I think Toronto's reaching right now. That's it for part 3. Part 4 coming up here in just a moment.